Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Matt, I'm back, and in today's video we are going to discuss some of the changes that is happening to my model railroad, the Metaline Falls branch. It's been about 9 months, I think, since I let it out of the bag that I was going to be turning back the clock, going back to the 1950s era of railroading and making some adjustments to the model railroad. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. What I've done so far, what I've planned to do in the future. This is kind of like a reset video showing everybody sort of like where we are now, plans moving forward, that kind of thing. In the end, I'll show off some of the new equipment that I've purchased as well as some of the models that I plan on putting on the layout. And I'm really excited about that. Hopefully I can get you excited about everything I have planned for the railroad. So, just to sort of circle back around to things, I had, this was a modern era freelance railroad set on the Metaline Falls, the former Milwaukee Road, Metaline Falls branch in what was Sandpoint, Idaho, and up into Usk, Washington. And I had decided that I wanted to model steam, and I want to get a little more prototypical in some ways. We'll go over that here in a second. So I turned back the clock and I decided that I was going to sell off all my modern equipment and focus more on the 1950s era. All right, so let's talk about what I've been doing lately. So first things first, I had decided that this area of Newport, Washington needed to be reworked. A couple of reasons. One is just from a scenic standpoint, the big rock structure that I had there didn't fit the area. But also because I'm moving to steam, I really wanted to and needed to incorporate more locomotive servicing tracks and kind of a facility to house steam locomotives. This is now going to kind of come off and come over here. This whole benchwork is coming out another 8 inches, I think, up to the edge of this door, and we're going to have an engine house and all the servicing tracks for the locomotives right here. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, I'm going to have another track coming off here and kind of going around the corner. That is going to be where I'm going to have my utility pole tracks. So similar, actually basically the same company as was in the previous version of the layout. I'm just modeling it prototypically in its prototypical location, and I'm modeling it as a facing point switch, which I don't have a whole lot of facing point switches on this layout, so I wanted to have something just to add a little bit of operational complexity to the layout, because I think like almost every single switch on this layout was a trailing point up to this point. So anyways, that's going to add some operational complexity to this area, which is kind of nice. You know, the things I'm not looking forward to is having to rewire like all these switches. I'm going to put in more so I can have more tracks I can turn the power off to for steam locomotives that I might be kind of storing and not using at the time, that kind of thing. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it kind of hurt my feelings to have to like rip out all the scenery and work that I had done here. But I'm reusing it, you'll see here in a second. And it's not bad. It was a little painful on myself at first, but like I'm excited about the future of what I'm going to have going on in this area. This is going to be a real fun yard and a fun area to operate. I should note, like one of the things I'm doing with this layout is, although I'm moving towards a more prototypical sort of vision in some ways, I am not doing a prototype version of the Metaline Falls branch. The Metaline Falls branch did not have like engine servicing facilities at Newport, Washington, like I'm going to have here. I'm essentially, the branch, the services for the branch started out in Spokane, Washington, and went up to Metaline Falls, spent the night in Metaline Falls, came back down the next day to Spokane, Washington. We are starting and ending our day in Newport, Washington instead, and doing an interchange with the Great Northern and the Milwaukee Road at Newport. So very similar operating scheme to what I had before. I'm just doing it in a different location, and I'm elevating Newport to a more railroad heavy location than it would have been in real life. One of the ways I'm sort of reusing track work that I have already installed and laid on the layout and is in a location that I actually enjoy and like quite a bit is an example right here. So this is the Diamond Match Stick Company, or the Diamond Match Company, I think is what it's called. And this was previously the scrap yard that I had made for myself. It was a sort of a freelance scrap yard kind of in this area right here. But I wanted to obviously get a little more prototypically accurate. The Diamond Match Company existed in the Old Town, Idaho area, which is right across the river from Newport, Washington. And I believe it was serviced by the Great Northern at the time. Since it came off Great Northern tracks, which it does here on my layout as well. It had its own switcher. I've got some old plans that show like an old engine shed and stuff for it. So my idea here is that you just basically, the Metaline Falls branch, the Milwaukee Road, would actually get permission to go out on Great Northern trackage and drop off a string of cars on this track right here. And then somewhere down the line, the switcher for the Diamond Match Company would come and grab these cars and take it into the mill area. So I added this little curve that kind of goes off into the backdrop here. I'm probably going to repaint this backdrop a little bit just to give a little bit of an impression of the river. This I might end up just colorizing this photograph here, cutting it out and sticking it kind of in that background just to give you an idea of the Diamond Match Company somewhere across the river in that way. So, but this is a good sort of way to kind of take tracks that already exist and figure out a way to reuse it in a way that's clever and prototypically probably not far off from what we would have seen on the real railroad. All right, coming over here, things are starting to get a little messy, but this is what's going on as you work on a layout. This bridge area here is getting some adjustments. I haven't decided if I'm going to call this the Ponderay River or there was another kind of creek that ran through this area that kind of would warrant having a bridge or a couple of bridges. Well, in this case, a couple of bridges because of the way the layout's laid out. But so anyways, not much is changing scenery-wise in this area. I don't think. I'm going to kind of keep it as was. I like the vision I had for this area here, so this is all kind of staying the same. You can see here, this is a rock wall that was over there. It's now over in this area here. This track right here represents the White Pine Lumber Company, which, from what I've been able to tell from the maps that I have, was a small operation that might have had just a single siding coming off the main line where they would load, lumber and box cars or probably something like that. So smaller industry, one of those industries that I might not work every single operating session, but it's there to kind of give it a little bit of interest, a little bit of color, and something to kind of make some of the operations some just additional cool operation opportunities. Over here is grade crossing. This is the primary state highway 6. This whole actually location here, I'm gonna have a tunnel just right off the screen right there. You've got your grade crossing, you've got your rock wall area here, you've got your White Pine Lumber Company. Fairly accurate to what was in this location and this arrangement during that time. So pretty excited to have something that is fairly prototypically accurate considering a lot of the adjustments that I'm making to the railroad otherwise. Alrighty, things are getting messy, but that's okay. Back here is the Panhandle Lumber Company, or Panhandle Lumber Mill, I should say. This was in Ione, Washington, and it was a couple of tracks that were loading tracks for a lumber mill, which is going to be, I'm probably going to model just the shed here, and then have flats on the backdrop or something to represent the rest of the lumber mill, kind of off away from the loading tracks a little bit. All right, finally we're coming to the end of the line here. This is Metaline Falls, Washington. This is going to be the area that's going to receive the biggest changes over what you're seeing here right now. This was on the old layout. This was Usk, Washington. These tracks here were part of the paper mill, and now as you can see that they are going to be part of the cement plant. The biggest customer on the line and the whole reason for the line kind of really existing, honestly. Although lumber did play a major role in the valley as well. The biggest thing I'm looking to do with this area is actually expand operations so that this becomes its own job during an ops session. One of the things that I like and don't like about the old layout was it was really just one crew doing the whole work for about 2.5 hours. And that's fine, but you can't really get a lot of people coming over because of it. So I never really ran like big operation sessions. I just had my friends come over a couple of times to play trains. And then I would run trains by myself. I mean, I like having a railroad I can run by myself for sure. But I wanted to give people a little more to do. So we want to make Metaline Falls its own job. And so to do that, I'm going to add another track at the cement factory. And then a lot of the work there will be shuttling cars around and putting them in the proper spots. We're going to have cement. We're going to have bagged cement in box cars as well. We're going to have an additional job where you're going to handle the coal at the coal spot, I guess. This was a coal-fired plant, so they got a lot of coal cars in here as well. So this is going to be kind of an interesting operation. The Milwaukee Road train will bring local, I guess, will bring cars up to Metaline Falls and drop off cars and pick up cars ready to go back. And the little switcher here will handle kind of getting everything in the right spot. Additionally, we are going to be adding a Y at Metaline Falls to turn my steam locomotives around and get them heading back down to Newport. So what I'm going to have is actually a removable Y section that I can kind of pull off and store so that when I'm working on 26th Street Station, I can pull that out and work on it and not have this big peninsula in the way as I'm doing that. So like all this track work here is going to be reworked. This is where coal is going to go, but we're also going to have a couple tracks coming off and going towards a Y that's going to head off in that direction as well. Finally, at the end of our tour, we're at the saddest spot on the layout, the one spot that I was not looking forward to getting rid of, and that is the, I had this big spot here that had the Box Canyon Bridge. It was kind of a deep, tall bridge, deep scene, I guess. Well, not deep this way, but deep this way scene, where I was going to have one of the most famous scenic spots on the Metaline Falls branch. And unfortunately, I had to get rid of it because it didn't make sense. We're past Metaline Falls at this point. It didn't make sense to have like this giant bridge at this spot. Even though I wanted to kind of model it for, photograph purposes, for historical purposes, that kind of thing. It just didn't work. So it had to go. I've got bridges in other parts of the layout, so we're going to have bridges on the layout. We're just not going to have that particular bridge, unfortunately. It's sad, but it doesn't fit in the room. I could probably force it. I could probably squeeze something in, build out a peninsula, and work my track work in such a way that I could model that scene in a more appropriate location. But to do that, I would be giving up a lot of space in this room that I would rather have for other things. And so model railroading is a compromise. And the biggest compromise I had to make was to not model what is, arguably one of the best parts about the branch. It is what it is. So what I ended up doing here was just removing all that and just putting in a piece of straight section that connects the full loop, so I can run trains in a full circle if I want. But one thing I was able to add here, then this is basically one end of the Y, and this is also going to be where the station for Metaline Falls is going to exist, as well as a small water tower so that our locomotives can, get a drink and get ready to head back to Newport. So, although I got rid of a bridge here, I was able to sort of figure out a cool scene to put in its place, and one that is functional for operating sessions as well, which I'm happy that I was able to make that happen. All right, we'll finish up the tour today, and I'll show off a few of the models that I've purchased, some of the things that have me kind of excited moving forward. We'll start off by talking about this steam locomotive. Now, when I was at the St. Louis RPM, I actually found the proper, prototypically accurate steam locomotive that would have been on this branch and working these industries at the time. And that is a gorgeous Milwaukee Road articulated locomotive. It was one of 52 models that were ever made and ever made it over to the United States. Factory painted, gorgeous example. So far out of my budget that there's absolutely no way I could ever afford or justify getting it. So I was a little dejected, seeing like basically my white whale, the one locomotive that I really would love to have on this layout, and then just having to let it go because the price tag was astronomical. But that being said, I was at the show and I found this right here. This is a Broadway Limited 282, a proper freight locomotive, something that scales well for the layout that I have, and it can work really well as sort of an alternative to running the 262 for this model railroad. This is a Paragon 3 locomotive. Now I have an older version of this model from many years prior to this, a Broadway Limited 282 that I purchased for almost no money. And I kind of bought it as like, maybe I'll fix it up and run it, maybe I won't, maybe I'll just have it just to have it. But getting a hold of this one, this is kind of like, this is a nice, details really nice on this. This is a nice running locomotive, and I can use that other 282 that I had purchased as just spare parts for this should I need it one day. The one thing that this locomotive doesn't have is great sound. There is sound in there. The speaker's really rattly. It's not good. And Broadway Limited is not well known for having the best decoders, so I decided that I was going to go ahead and upgrade the decoder to an ESU one. ESU makes this adapter board for the Broadway Limited Paragon 3 and 4 decoders, which is really awesome. So I can stick this board in here and plug everything into this board here, and then I can plug in a ESU decoder itself with the proper sound on there. I can program that to my heart's delight. And for sound itself, I've got a scale sound system speaker that's going to go into that tender. So end of the day, I should have a beautiful looking and beautiful operating steam locomotive for my model road. I'm really excited about that. Additionally, while I was at the show, I found a bunch of these ribside boxcars. These are by Intermountain. So I got 3 of them to add to these guys here, which are Exact Rail ribside boxcars. Slightly different models representing different types of ribside boxcars. But Milwaukee Road was really known for their ribside cars, and so it's a unique feature to the Milwaukee Road, so I wanted to have plenty of those on this layout. I also purchased some of these Rapido drop bottom gondolas. These are Northern Pacific gondolas for pulpwood loading only, which is kind of fun. Rapido, man, this layout would not exist if it was for Rapido. They make some gorgeous cars, and I've got a lot of them. One of the few manufacturers that are producing cars for this era, and I'm happy that they're doing it, along with Intermountain, along with Exact Rail, along with Tangent, And you know, those guys, everyone's doing a good job for sure. But Rapido really knocking it out of the park. Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks for stopping by and checking out everything I've got going on here. Yeah, I'm excited to continue working on this and bringing you along with me on that journey. And that's about it. I'll see you all in another video.